I cannot.
You will be live in a second. It will appear like it appears like it's live, but it isn't live on my side. So just give me a second until it appears live on my side. But there should be a link at the top that you can post anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are live. I'm
We are-
Mahadedi from the American University in Cairo, and Alan is your virtual buddy, so I will let him start.
Excellent. Thank you. And it's so good to have technical support from you, Maha. I was really nervous about doing this, and technology does scare me. So I hope nothing goes wrong. I'm Alan Levine. I'm your irreverent host, coming to you from what I call Central Canada, which is Treaty 4 territory. And it's really exciting to be virtually connecting again. And what a great gathering that we have here to connect with folks from the OTESA conference, which we'll get to in a second. Just want to give a chance to say hello and hear something from our virtual guest. And I'll call on you in turns. And of course, introduce yourself, where you're from, and what jumps into your head when you hear the name OTESA. Like, who is OTESA? So I'm going to go to Glenda first because she's on my row. So hello, Glenda, welcome.
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Glenda Cox. I'm from the University of Cape Town, South Africa. So pretty far away from you, totally different time zones, evening here for me. And I was really honored to be invited to do a virtual keynote with Bianca Masuku, my colleague who works with me. I did that on Saturday evening. So that's my experience. And to be brutally honest, OTESA was not anything that I knew about. I have read articles from the journal, but wasn't really aware of the event in terms of the conference as such. Tend to kind of stick to kind of open education conferences a lot, and I've realized that this is a wonderful, from what I can see of the titles, not that I've seen much, a wonderful mix of open and future education and AI and all the topics that we're all talking about. We're talking about them in Cape Town as you're talking about them globally. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenda, and we look forward to hearing more about your session and your experience there. And I'm gonna go next. We're gonna whiz over to Scotland, to someone who's newly landed there. Anne-Marie Scott, good to see you. Welcome.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, and good to see everybody here. Apologies if my connection is unstable at any point. I've got a backup running, and things seem to be a little bit fluffy anyway at the moment. I gave an invited talk on Saturday as part of the online program as well, and stuck around and watched a few sessions on Saturday. Now that the conference has switched into face-to-face mode, sadly, I haven't kept up with as much of it. But again, looking forward to the keynotes and the other invited speakers being recorded and made available after the conference. So I'll play a bit of catch up then, and frantically going through Twitter and saving as many things as I possibly can that are tagged with the OTESA tag. I do know about OTESA because I was the co-chair of the very first ever OTESA conference, which, as Val will remember, well, it just seems to be a different flavour of by the seat of your pants every year, I think, because OTESA is bound to the bigger Congress conference, and so an amount of the infrastructure and ways of doing things are sort of dictated by them. And I think it's fair to say, Val, we all had opinions as experts in this field and continue to have opinions about how well Congress does virtual then and hybrid now. And I think, am I allowed to say their platform makes us want to puke, or is that rude?
But no, the day before it started on, like, what you don't know is Friday. We just went, we're for it. Like anyway, so we redirected all the Zoom links to our site. Then we had to password protect the program. We did a quick diversion, but we're learning because it's different every year, because we're forming during a pandemic, we're running during a pandemic. It's sort of building while we're flying, but also wanting to do things our way, but also go into the middle of academia and push out and create a space that's ours. And yeah, and we also can do things outside of like Congress. And for those who don't know, it's like I don't know, up to 10,000 people come, many different associations running their own conferences at the same time. So
And this was going to be my first face-to-face one until I made the decision, as you said, Alan, to relocate back to Scotland. So I was at Athabasca in Canada until the end of March, but now back in Scotland. And I describe myself as gainfully unemployed now. Do things that bring me joy, like talking at Otessa on Saturday. So anyway, I'll shut up and let you pass on.
I don't know. Watching your Instagram feed, I'm rather jealous. I'm going to switch gears now. We're going to come back to our virtuals because I understand that our on-site folks may need to go, and there's a lot we want to unpack about the conference itself. So I'm going to flip over to Helen DeWard, who is our on-site buddy, and let us know who's there with you. And then we're going to come back to you guys so you can dive in more about the conference details. But I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say hello.
And it's so nice to be called to do this again. I'm just talking about how nice this feels to have these conversations, and haven't had them for so long, other than through text chats and signal conversations with people. So it's really nice. I have Leo here, who is snuck in under the wire to get into Canada with some challenges. Val, who's been instrumental in all things Otessa, and Michael, and they're from the West Coast, and I'm located here in central Canada.
Let's hear from you guys on site. What does Otessa mean to you? Oh,
Yeah.
Valerie, you've already sort of
Yeah, she knows. She
introduced
has,
a little bit.
come on, and use some imagination. I was thinking like a person or a strange planet, but you say whatever you want.
So I guess Otessa, it spawned out of like a group Google Doc where we were all sharing like what are some of the challenges that we're facing and how can we build something that that works, because it's trying to get rid of the silos. So having, for example, research conferences I would go to, and they're just, I don't know, like I have to go there because my job dictates it. But then if I go to a practice-oriented conference, I get joy and innovation and things there. And to go to both, you know, it keeps us separated. And it also, there's so much capacity or so much travel funds. And so thinking, how do we create a conference where we can create space, you know, like hold space for both. And in addition, the topics. So I'm very much into modality, you know, ed tech, learning about other issues of tech and society. And so you can go to ed tech conferences, and then there's open conferences. And I'm very much, you know, passionate about open, but it becomes this again, another separated silo. And as an open advocate, if we stay separate, how do we infiltrate, you know, and get that message out? So the fact that, I mean, no one's like, ooh, Congress here, but they do their best. They are like 100+ old year entity, and they're bringing together thousands of traditional academia. And aren't those the people we want to, you know, transform, get her, you know, message to? So
and they did give us a great building.
Oh, beautiful building, yes. So that's the part there, is to, I think, yeah, have a one-stop shop if we can. And then we were the only ones allowed to have online only days here. No one else was allowed that. They were allowed to have a maximum of 2 Zoom rooms, 2 sessions per day. And we were like, we can't have a have and have not session. So we only did that for the keynotes and invited speakers. And then we just, so it wasn't as smooth this year, but we got
By the skin of our teeth.
Azuracast installed at UVic and loaned it to Otessa, and we got IzzyCast on, and we have volunteers. So we had some audio streams from the concurrent sessions. So it's more testing this year. We didn't actually post that public in case, I don't know, it crashed or something like that. We'll have to do a lot of experimentation, but next year we want to have, you know, audio streams for all the concurrent sessions as well, to try and permeate, share resources and share your stream. Yeah, that's a long answer.
So like, how many people are there for Otessa? And I mean, I know Congress is huge, and are you
Yeah.
kind of, do you stay within your Otessa clan or do you kind of mingle with the others?
So there's like, it's very confusing. There's a base registration to register with Congress.
Right.
And then from there, you can register for all the associations you want to participate in. And so there's like, I think there's even a gaming, association. There's a Canadian Association or Society for the Study of Education. That's a big one.
There's
But that's like
a history
traditional.
association, literacy association.
Yeah. There's sociology, Raul Pachero, the fellow who does that lovely blog about research and stuff. He's here with the sociology.
Are you saying all this to let us know that there's no way you can tell us how many people are there?
Oh, yeah.
That was the question.
Like, so we usually are like pushing towards 200 in terms of total, but we have, I think, 84 that registered that said in person. But I'm seeing that there's not 84 here all the time, and there's different people every day. And we have a partnership with CSSE, CSSHE, which is the education one, the higher education one, and CALJ, which is the learned journals one. So like, scholarship, that we can attend any of their sessions and they can attend any of ours without having to register there as a second registration. So we have these little packs. So our people are floating around, and so it's kind of hard we don't put trackers on them. We respect privacy.
Yeah, and one of the challenges for me was that I'm also involved in one of those other subgroups. I was co-chairing a subdivision for TATE, which is the technology and teacher education. So I was managing 19 presentations in another building, 15 minutes or 10 minutes away, depending on how fast you walk. So I was back and forth a fair amount the first 2 on-site days.
And you can't walk that fast because it's very hot.
So 29 degrees in the shade.
The best analogy I could give you is it's like an ocean. And there's lots of fishes, and we're all here, and it's huge. But we found our fish, and it's a small little school, but we're actually swimming really in sync together. And every session has been remarkable in terms of the applicability to at least the work I do. I'm not part of the conference organization committee. We got those folks here, but for me, as an early career scholar, it's a tremendous opportunity to be part of Congress with a focus on open education, which traditionally wasn't there. And there's scholarship as part of it. There's a great journal that's emerging. So from my perspective, it's brilliant. And in Canada, it's really widely recognized.
And we'll get Michael used to walking into rooms that have people that are speaking French as part of their presentation. I was at one that University of Ottawa, amazing. They had like $2.5 million granted for some research they were doing. And it was an incredible project that I think has implications for open and Otessa. But I think there's more bridge building that I think we need to do between these subgroups. And I think being on site with Congress has value. And I think being so new to it, there's ways we can start building the connections and bridges.
They do a federal pre-budget government submission, and we do our own, but they also do. And the more we can, have a seat at the table to try to, vote for things, but we didn't put C for Canada in Otessa because we don't want to be Canada. I mean, there'll be things we do here for that subgroup. But I mean, if you think about it, like in the UK, there'll be like things that are international, but they're always in the UK, right? Things that are international, they're always in America. So, I mean, we also don't even always have to be in Canada. We're so new that we have a blank canvas. So if there's anything you want to bring, like there's a prof in the US who wants to bring design case studies to our, publishing and conference output, which is really neat ideas coming forth there. And it's like, yes, bring it, like we don't like something, let's change it. Like, and I think, haven't, been around so long that we've got entrenched in things, and hopefully we can keep that ongoing you know, to, yeah, never change that mindset.
Be open to the possibilities.
Yeah.
That's why it was really lovely to be invited to be a co-chair for this year's conference, because it was all kind of, you know, it wasn't like this is how exactly how we're doing it. It was all like, you know, what do we feel like doing?
So the light show last night was amazing because
Yeah.
the engineers and the mechanical people came and rejigged the lights of the building just so that we could have our party.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's so cool. Which also reminds me, you guys should take a photo of yourselves today.
Yeah.
But that's so awesome.
Yeah, we need a
We
selfie.
can't the lighting people of York University enough. They worked so hard to give us what we want.
But wait, I want to be known for doing that because they
Oh,
turned off the
okay.
emergency lights and
should do that.
anyway.
Doesn't
But
have-
you can see, we still could see stuff and we danced till midnight. It was like you, me.
Did you have fun stuff for the virtuals too, or no?
Well, we did more last year for the online. We had like.
I remember. I remember
yeah,
because I
this
keynoted
year-
last time and you had lots of nice
So
virtual
much.
activities.
This year we predetermined, okay, how about across the week span, 3 on-site days, a gap day for travel, and then, but we all start online and we all finish online together. But not knowing who wants to submit to be on site and who wants to submit to be online and how many are going to emerge. But we had to set sort of our schedule, like 50% shows, like over 50 it shows online. So we had 2 days. So we ended up being like, there's like a lot of concurrent sessions and we are still having an unconference there, but so
We had a lot of
iteration,
sessions to get in the
innovation.
schedule.
We got to iterate again for next year to kind of go, okay, let's figure this out better. So we create more space there. But it's all, yeah, it's kind of wild.
So
But there
it's
there is a social at the end of the sort of tail end of the conference on Friday. That is virtual.
Okay, cool.
okay.
So I don't know how many of the virtual folks have, I mean, I know Anne Marie, Glenda and Terry were participating virtually
Yeah.
or at least partially virtually. But I'm curious if folks have been following like Twitter on what's happening at the keynotes and the events. I've heard about 3 sessions so far that I'm curious about. I'm curious about Nick Bertrand's. And Leo, you mentioned one on Twitter and I was tagged on that. And I want to know about Sarah Elaine Eaton's. And I don't know what everyone else who's virtual here wants to know about.
Yeah,
I'm
let us
curious.
know. Yeah, what was the virtual experience like? Virtually experience. Virtual. I don't know.
It wasn't online, so I can't say what that experience. Or, sorry. Anyone there? Like, we don't have a virtual person here to actually say what the experience was, but.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh,
Go
you
ahead,
have-
Terry. Terry's talking about Sarah Elaine Eaton. Oh, there's a link. It's already
Yeah,
been
I was
posted
there
in
so
real
I-
life.
I wasn't there for virtual.
Yeah, tell us what it was like though.
You were virtually there or you were there?
For Sarah Elaine Eaton's. What I was
In the room.
definitely actually there. That's what. Yeah.
Physically on site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And? Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic. That it was great. Like just pulling us back into a bigger picture view of what should actually be included in academic integrity, with student conduct being one small piece, and all the ethics around institutional practices, instructional practices. I've seen Rajiv talk about that kind of thing too. It's great that it's spreading more to, like, you know, pull back, take a step back and think more deeply about academic integrity. She looped in AI as well, which was great. But that was what was memorable to me. And I'm trying to find the file as I do this, so that's why my thoughts are incomplete. I'm passing it along to the next person.
When I grow up, I want Terry's microphone.
Oh, okay, wait, let me spotlight you. Yeah, do that again. Do that again, Valerie. I'll spotlight you. Read that. Big question. What's the overlap between confabulation, neutral, and fabrication misconduct?
Nice.
Ah, nice.
So
Yeah,
that's
the
idea.
words we use make such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, really neat moments, but all of the talks that we have from invited and keynotes, we got, you know, when we invited them, we said, we'll post them publicly on YouTube. So we have to get our act together and get them all up on YouTube so you can catch up on all of those as well.
So are
But-
Glenda's and Anne Marie's and Terry's talks also on YouTube already? Awesome.
Well,
Well, no, they're not on YouTube.
Not yet.
They
going
will
to,
be.
Yeah,
But they will be soon.
And Bonnie's talk as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who's invited or keynote. And there's a lot of them.
That's
Yeah,
great.
a lot of workload. If
We
anyone
could
wants-
do a binge watch after the event is over and then have another virtually connecting session based on the binge watching. Right?
After conference.
A week was pretty intense. Are you worn out?
First
Yeah.
conference back,
Weird.
the body is
Yeah.
is not, it's mode for a few years and yeah, just exhausted, but still hanging on because there's just so much richness still to come in even the
Yeah.
last afternoon.
Mhm.
And I wanted, like, I really enjoyed the unconference on site.
Oh, yeah.
And so there'll be an online one too, but just the ability to be in a room and just talk like this, like just you feel the shoulders drop when you have unstructured space, at least for me. I mean, some people might find it stressful, but
No, I felt like that session people really enjoyed, and everybody had a bit to say, and it was really nice.
yeah.
But what I've realized is how much energy it takes to be social.
Yeah.
And to be present to people, and is that make eye contact, negotiate the space, how close am I going to
I know.
be?
Not wearing masks.
There are so many people that are still masking and you know, in making those intentional choices about where and when to mask. So it's being aware, socially aware that has been energy draining, that I'm
Yes, so-
exhausted.
There's those people you've seen online over the past 2 or 3 years, or maybe never met in person. This is your first time coming together and being together. There's been a couple instances of that for me that have been really meaningful.
And there were a couple of people from our community who landed, tested COVID, turned around and got on a plane out of here again.
Oh,
So there are, like, we do hear about, and then there, I don't know, I feel that there's a little bit of a paranoia of, where is it? Or if someone's wearing a mask, is it because they have it? Or, I don't know, I don't know how to feel comfortable truly yet. And it sort of feels like, oh, just gonna take a chance. I got vaccinated on Tuesday. We had rapid tests to give out for free and KN95 masks, so everything was there for people to test. And I don't know, just yeah, I'm glad we provide the online only option for people to be safe and to be included. But it's a weird,
Yeah.
it's a weird shift. We're all very close and
Well, especially right now. It's like the closest we've been.
yeah.
so any comments or questions from we got lots of people here and I'm sure they're curious about the conference or what's going on with your Anne-Marie. Is that a hand raise or are you just like doing some calisthenics?
No, it's a hand raise.
Okay.
I'd be interested in hearing from the on-site folks. We talked a little bit about keynotes and invited speakers. What have you seen apart from those that you've enjoyed?
I saw a fantastic presentation from 2 undergraduate health sciences students who were presenting a resource that they've created that's like a virtual scenarios that basically are to raise people's awareness of racism, and they were talking about so basically it was about when you recognize microaggressions, but then they did a whole went into really interesting deconstruction of why they don't even agree with using the term microaggressions. And that just blew me away. And I was like, this is undergraduate students. This is what, students can do when you don't tell them like, here's a formula assignment that you must complete and, do a generic thing. I thought it was amazing.
That's amazing.
I attended one this morning that was an undergrad professional years here in Ontario, teacher education, so it's a separate degree program, and master's level students who were co-designing a course for their faculty, an EDI course. And they talked about their experience of constructing this course together as students who would potentially not necessarily even deliver the course. So, and the person who was from the faculty was also there, but was a really powerful presentation for me, because I think of co-constructing as I'm with my students, I'm the instructor, we're co-constructing this course together, you know, liquid syllabus and all that, but this was program level.
Nice. That's very cool.
It's great to hear that there are a lot of student presentations and experience, like proportion wise, or was that significant? And how was it to sort of solicit those?
Well, some of them we don't know at all. Like they just came, you know, out of the woodwork here at the undergrad level. Even there's
Nice.
Was there
Yeah.
anything in the call that sort of encouraged that kind of session? No?
Nope.
So Michael was about to say something just before Alan asked that question, and then Terry raised his hand. So go, Michael.
Sorry, thank you for noticing. I just wanted to give a nod to a presentation I went to this morning, a PhD student. So a student again, Danny Dilks, presenting on her research with regard to hostile technologies, the hidden curriculum and implications for ed tech. Unfortunately, it wasn't recorded, but I encourage you to follow her research because it was so interesting thinking about sort of the implicit and things that are happening behind the scenes, whether it's built into technology tools or the way we structure education, and really great thought-provoking things to be considering as ed tech leaders and professionals and people who are interested in research and working with students.
Hopefully she'll write that one up as a
Yeah,
receiving.
she is a PhD student, so I would
Yeah.
imagine it's part of the dissertation, so watch the space.
and we're trying to encourage people to like submit a proceeding, and a proceeding, you know, we have a template for text, but people can, you know, link to and other media types or what have you, and you know, think differently. And we do have practice oriented and research oriented, so it doesn't always, like, I think letting go some of those preconceived, you know, baggage of what we think that looks like. And we have Jess Mitchell wrote a blog post that, or draft for a blog post that we can get out soon, about questioning, you know, the assumptions. And if someone wants to do something traditional, whatever, to meet their traditional context, or you won't get tenure, you know, you need it for X, we can deliver that, but we also can deliver other things. So trying to have it as a rainbow, you know, pick your path. Oh, it was like those books, remember? Choose your adventure. Yes, I miss those.
Choose your own.
Yes.
I should build one of those in H5P or something.
Michael?
Yeah.
Michael, Jonathan was asking in the chat if you can expand more on what hostile tech meant, the way Danny mentioned it. We've been, I don't know what you guys were talking about, but in the chat, we've been talking about that. So.
Yeah, so if you think of hostile architecture as a principle would be things like, you think see the benches at a bus station that have sort of armrests built in
Dividers,
between them.
so you can't sleep
So
on
people
them.
aren't able to lie down. So there's lots of examples of this, and Danny really gave us quite a few. Skateboarding impediments are another great example you might see around a city where they're trying to get people not to surf the wave or whatever it's called. I'm not a skateboarder. But then with relation to technology, like what sort of things are built into these environments that also kind of suggest to learners what's going on. Like, you don't have much control here. It's going to come when it comes from who's in charge. And so thinking about things like that was just remarkable. And I hope that helped with that concept. Contact Danny, follow her work. It's great.
Does that work for you, Jonathan?
So,
Sorry? missed
Yes,
that.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's sort of intentional design. And I get it. You know, it pricked my ears up. It's something I'm thinking about. Perhaps more unintentionally hostile design. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and there was a paper by Neil Selwyn about chairs, classroom chairs. If anyone has seen that paper, it just came out. So it's kind of related to Danny's work, the way we design, like you can look at the whole space of classroom design, but also just chairs and how they're designed and what they say about how things are meant to go down in learning spaces. So that paper's out there if you're looking for more literature on the subject.
And next year, we're gonna be at McGill University in Montreal, which is a really, I love visiting Montreal. So if you have any aspiration to join either online or in person, we'll do the same thing. We'll just improve it, iterate again. And if you have any wish lists, we can incorporate those. And yeah, the proceedings or the call sort of design of the proceedings or proposals, I mean, are all posted on conference.otessa.org. So, bookmark it. We tweeted out the dates. It's like mid-May, like something. Yeah.
Sounds good. Was there a hand raised, Terry, or something, or some? I think there's some question about the radio show too that you did, and I know there and the other efforts, brave efforts to do the live streaming. But what went on with your radio show, Terry?
Yeah, my hand was up just based on the question. What did the on-site folks see? And I was going to just mention Bonnie Stewart being a machine, like 4 or 5 different sessions at multiple associations, I think. I got a link to one of her slides, the one that I caught, but she was also co-creating and delivering with students as well. So she did some awesome stuff. But the voice ed, I had nothing to do with the live cast stuff, but we were doing a morning radio show. So the last 3 days, it's been from 6:30 to 7:30 in the morning with Stephen Hurley. And we brought in some guests. Val came in this morning, David Porter, Connie Blomgren, one of the other co-chairs, and Anne Marie on Monday. It wasn't such a bad time for you though, because you're over to the right of us. But yeah, it was fun. Tiring though. I would be half an hour in, and the kids would get up and ask for food, so I'd have to run off and grab some yogurt while I missed the question and then answered poorly when I came back. But it was good fun for sure.
You have the total radio. I want that microphone. Is it the microphone or is it Terry? Like you sound like deep and resonating, and I want to be like Terry. But yeah, that's
the microphone, not me.
No, that's it. I've seen that a couple places where a lot of times it's been you or Steven's network doing this, having this idea of a morning recap session, and it's a nice concept.
Well, we did it with Otessa last year. It's tons of fun.
I'll just put a second plug in for the work that Stephen does across the sector, not just Canada, but just bringing voices in and talking through really difficult and challenging topics and really fun things too. He finds people and invites them in to create a space for other voices to be heard. I admire and commend him for it as part of his passion project.
And this interesting concept where, I mean, he's been kind of been the captain of voice ed radio, and he's stepping back and they're trying to turn it into a cooperative, which is an interesting development.
Yeah, he's working the rooms at Congress this week to nail some of that down. I'm hoping to be part of that as well. So yeah, it's fun stuff. The reason that I got into making Getting Air, the Open Pedagogy podcast, was Stephen drawing me into this space. But funnily, that Stephen was drawn to radio through DS 106. So it all feeds each other, I think.
You know, you have to ask him to tell you the story of the ring at Quincy Mall. He'll know what that means.
Okay, I will. Quincy Mall. Okay.
Yeah, but other folks or maybe I'm intrigued. I really want to congratulate Valerie and the team for really trying to figure out this kind of way to do conferences going forward. It's something that's a lot on my mind because there's no formula, but I think we're all kind of fine things that work both ways. And so I'm wondering if other people have been experiencing positive or negative experiences as they're trying to navigate this.
Well, I can share a negative.
Yeah.
We were and you had the same thing happen over in the UK somewhere, and then it hit us on Saturday. Everything was beautiful with the welcome, with the keynote, with the invited speakers, and we had like the concurrent sessions. Created a Zoom link for each session. We were told we could do that. It was outside of Congress though, so doing our own thing. And then we were in there and the sessions were going, and then you'd go in and it would keep dropping. And we're like, what, why is it? And all these rooms were starting to drop. And Leo is like, I've seen this happen before. It's because you can create endless rooms with some of these enterprise accounts, but you can't create them to run at the same time.
Talk about hostile technology.
It's the the person who created the sessions. So
Yeah.
the original creator of the sessions can only have like 2 concurrent
They
sessions
don't
running,
say that anywhere.
which is a secret knowledge that Zoom doesn't tell you.
Yeah, so we were madly, okay, you create a Zoom room, you create. We kind of that kind of some of the sessions we bumped to this week and let them Zoom in, or they're here, they just rescheduled and but yeah, that created a little bit of a panic. And then I think in the second concurrent session, one of them was created but didn't add
to 45 minutes.
Limited, didn't add alt hosts, so people were there going, oh, but we can't admit anyone because we can't see anyone because no one got host. Or so that these, yeah, so it's live and learn. And so, like I said, every year we'll iterate and get better. And
Thankfully, people have been really sweet about it.
yeah,
They were like, well, you're trying really hard.
yeah,
Well, too, they were transparent. They said we've got a whole bunch of different options. We could just do one room and break out, but then we lose recordings. So it was kind of negotiated. I felt like we were part of the.
It was hard at first to diagnose what was going on as well, because the initial cutoff was at the end of Anne-Marie's session that cut off it instantly on the dot of 45 minutes, which was how long it was supposed to be for.
Yeah.
And the parallel one that I was in did the same. And so
we thought,
so we were thinking, these are on a timer to end like on dead on time.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it at all. It was because the new rooms were being opened
people
up.
were joining the concurrent sessions that were about to start, and then that created too many. Yeah, so that was so live and learn. If any of you are going to host anything, learn from our mistake.
What we did with MyFest is we said no concurrent sessions. That solves all problems. People don't have to make choices.
There'll be one session.
One session
And
at a time. And that's
of course, technology.
I like how the
Yeah.
ethos of MyFest was, no FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, technology is just a tool, right? But boom, everything goes. I'm curious too, Val, like, how are you organizing a virtual unconference? Like, what's the structure and format for that?
It might even still be up there. We might have EdCamp edtechuvic.ca/edcamp, and you can see an artifact of when we did one last. But like when we teach, like we have 336, Michael and I teach it, and so in our classes, what we started doing pre-pandemic was, we can do an in-person EdCamp, but we only have like 35 students. You're kind of trying to pull it together, and it's not that woohoo. So we did this thing where we would give this a survey out, give us your topics by this time, and then we would put them into another survey that was, vote for, rank these topics, and then by this time, and then we would basically go into a Zoom room with once I think we had a separate Zoom room for each, but I think now we have, I think our latest iteration, we had breakout rooms, and we just named them the topics, and we pre-created Google Docs with topic A, topic B kind of thing, and then we linked the topic, to the Zoom room in advance, and all we had to do is just change the text to what the topic was. it's not that hard. And we had like, I don't know, 90 people show up for our undergrad class.
They can self-select, they can move around.
Yeah, move around
Pretty great.
and we had superintendent, principals. This is for a pre-service teacher ed class. So we had UNBC students were joining. So pre-service, we're meeting pre-service from other universities. It's like, mwah.
This is one of the things that there was something the tool did that enabled that kind of thing, that kind of vote with your feet type of thing, when they allow people to choose their own Zoom rooms. And so that was something that without that technology was really exhausting for a host to have to manage, right? I'm curious
Yeah.
about folks who aren't at Otessa and any good conference designs you've seen that you thought worked well, or bad ones that we just all need to learn from and avoid. I mean, like people in this room, I'm sure, have tried
Yeah.
everything that has existed so far. It would be interesting to see. George, you're saying, replying to Anne-Marie about just a tool is a great rabbit hole. The class has time for it.
Oh, yes. Basically, that comment a couple of minutes ago now about the tech being just a tool. Alan had said something, and he didn't quite make air quotes, but I could see them anyway, because I know we have different levels of engagement with that question. Is it the technology, or is it us, interacting with the technology that can be the issue? But the point is, there's always an issue, right? The unintended consequences, I guess. Let me see if I can come on. I'm going to risk coming on video as well, just to see. Is it working? Okay, great. Just because I've got a iffy connection here that already kicked me off once today. So yeah, I want to appreciate the on-site folks for talking about how they're handling COVID in particular, as we either pretend or don't pretend we're back to normal and so on. But obviously with issues of people arriving, testing, and then having to turn around or not being able to attend the conference they just traveled however many hundreds of miles to attend. We don't do that for the flu, right? We don't do that for many other things. And so there has to be some kind of a new process emerging. Let me throw in one example that I just went through with an organization. It's my faculty union, California Faculty Association. We have an assembly once per semester, a fall and spring assembly. And this spring, we were still hybrid. And because we were hybrid, we had to figure out how delegates could vote. If everyone is virtual, then you can use a Zoom space to vote a particular way, and they kind of had it set up for that. And if everyone is in person, then you actually do physical paper and so on, and you have ballots and all of that. And when it's hybrid, you've got to figure something out. So we actually had to run what amounted to a test voting session, and then the real voting session that happened the following session the next day, where they allowed people who were in person to physically do the labor-intensive running around with paper ballots, while someone was tracking the delegates in the Zoom room. And there were several hundred delegates total across 23 campuses of the CSU. So it's not trivial, like a small classroom or a smaller space. And they managed to get through it, but it turned out to be staff intensive, and it took some real coordination to keep things with just a few minutes, which is the normal voting range, right? It's like, okay, you've got to, and they use the reaction buttons very efficiently. The green check for yes on a motion, red X for no, that kind of thing. And I'm kind of going up to the line of what I can share, like a forever YouTube about it. But as far as those kinds of basics, we found out it was totally doable, though, for a large space to do something interactive like that and have it work. And that's really what I want to pass on. And I forget what, the signal was for abstentions, right? Because they allowed for yes, no, and abstention and so on. So there was actually that kind of interaction. And you can do the same thing with polls. And that was the other thing that was done. You can do it with polls as well, except that polls are basically anonymous, right? So you can and how do you know that only the delegates are voting, right? In something like that. And so that was not a trivial issue as well, but they figured it out. And it is a little bit labor intensive, but it's something that I think is still kind of evolving as a process. But that was my one example to share.
My university senate uses something called TT Poll, which is Turning Technologies, which has both a physical clicker, but it can also be done online. And they only send the password to the delegates who are allowed to vote. But you can either have everyone just do it online, or you can have people on site do with a physical clicker and the others online, and it tracks. It makes sure, it doesn't really make sure that nobody who's not allowed to vote votes, but you don't send the passcode except to those who are allowed to vote. And so you get that.
Wow.
But if it's not a sensitive thing, you could just use Google Forms or Slido.
When it's not sensitive, but for our academic senate, it would be something parallel,
it had to
like
be,
our faculty union, because both of those have impact for entire campuses, right?
They gotta be anonymous,
when
but
your
you
senate
gotta make
votes on
sure.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Anne-Marie.
Yes.
Yeah, since we're talking about things we've seen elsewhere, one thing I really enjoyed, and it's not free to do, was a cost to the conference organizer, not to the participants. OER 20, when it had to pivot very quickly. No, OER by domains. Sorry, it was once they'd had a bit of chance to think about it. Worked with Brian Mathers to create a design your own conference badge, like a virtual conference badge using his tool. And because nobody was attending that one physically, like the conference badge is, we all, I do anyway. I scribble on it with a pen and I stick stickers on it, and I like the physicality of the conference badge. I like kind of crafting a little bit of an identity from it, usually scribbling on a Twitter handle or something. So it was nice to have that, but of course it created a gallery of them. So then you got to see everybody's as well. And I for online, or possibly even more for hybrid, actually, I think something like that could work really well, because I feel very disconnected from the people who are there. I know all of you, and I know you're there, and all the people I follow on Twitter who are there, I know they're there, but there's a whole bunch of other people that I've never heard of, never met, and it would be kind of cool to have that sort of a gallery of badges, or just a social space where people could put their bios or something. I mean, the remixer's cool. It's got a kind of tactile quality, which I think makes it more attractive. Because you've talked about some really interesting presentations from people that were not on our radar at all, who came forward in response to the call. And I'd really love to be able to go through something like that and kind of, go and look those people up and find out more about them, and, maybe start stalking them on the internet and all of that. So in the non-creepy way, obviously, in the academically acceptable way. So that would be kind of a cool thing to do. And I think it would really help offsite people feel more connected. And also maybe give the people on site a sense that there is this other crowd of people watching along and participating in the online sessions too.
And really encourage anyone who wants to get more involved with OTESA, whether it's with the journal or the proceedings or the conference or government advocacy, or just, hey, it's a tool for all of us to use for good. And yeah.
So, Alan, I'm just going to mention that we're going to head out soon. I know the conversations usually last well beyond what the on-site folks, but we have another session to get to shortly. So we'll wrap up from this end.
Can we get the remixer machine in a WordPress plugin so that we could just plug it into a site, and it could build such a pass system, or not? That's probably not the right term, but to build those badges within a content or a WordPress website.
Maybe.
I'm not putting you on the
I
spot.
think what you can do is you can use the remixer tool to make a badge, and then you can
Yeah.
download the image. So you could create an image collector website where everybody could just upload their image to it using one of the Splot templates. That would be the
And I've worked with Brian, like if you
Who's not
become,
working right now might be able to have some time to do that.
yeah, but Brian can set things up where you can create sort of a thing that is a standard template. Like we did that. There's a virtual postcard thing in there that we used. And he comes up with creative solutions when you say, can you think of some way to do this? Brian, I just love that guy. He's just one of the most creative and generous people out there.
Also the
Thank
tallest
you.
person I've ever met. I think.
I know.
Oh my God, he's so tall.
We do have a
Bye.
Mattermost channel. You can
Okay.
join the back channel.
Thanks for those who are joining
Watch
us.
Glenda's keynote. That's my final
Bye,
shout out.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Leo, what are you trying to
everyone.
say, Leo? Leo, are you trying to say something before you
Bye,
leave?
Michael.
Okay, he was
Something
pointing.
about a keynote, or I don't know. That was
Okay.
pretty exciting. What do you think? We're back. Virtual Connecting is back.
I'm going to say goodbye as well. I start traveling again tomorrow. Copenhagen and then on to the States, and I have to try and
Okay.
find all the adapters for all the different kinds of
Oh, safe
amongst other
travels.
things, and my paperwork. So take care, everybody. It was
Take
a pleasure
care.
to see you all.
Yeah.
I just came
Thank
back
you.
from a trip and I went and got power banks. And I got 2 power banks because I was so worried I'd run out of charge on my phone. But of
Mine-
course, I kept finding places to charge my phone.
My
Yeah.
power bank is charging up as well. So yeah, I'm going to be nomadic for about a week. So take care, folks. Bye.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Bye.
And thank you everybody for joining us. I think that was pretty exciting, and I hope you guys enjoyed being here. Good to see you, Jonathan. Sue.
To you, Alan, I had a question before. I didn't want to hijack.
Go
the whole
ahead, Jonathan.
thing, Right. Hey, Maha, I just want to ask a question as people are still here. And Maha and you, Alan, who I know probably best. Maha's gone, obviously, straight away. But it was.
No, I'm here. I just
you're
turned
here.
my camera off.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll let you then. I'll let you off. It was just to ask, really. I found myself in a situation recently where I was involved in this big project and I was consulting on it, and it was for COP27. It was for the United Nations. It was this enormous research project, and they had the reason I was brought in was to say, how do we make this open and engage people more than the policymakers at COP27? And it was very, very targeted. It was 2 years of research by Columbia University, and it was all about mobility, and it was targeted specifically at policymakers, specifically during a break at COP27, right? So this was super specific. And they said, well, we've got this huge chunk of stuff, what else can we do with it? Right. And I was like, well, why have you not turned this into a teaching resource? Why haven't we open this out to that sort of globally connected network of open teachers and open teachers? And so we started down that path, and I only got so far, and I think in lots of ways I felt as though I failed because I just couldn't get them to go actively open, right? To enable us to sort of engage us folks to grab this stuff and actually turn it into a resource. But the project it won a Webby, and it did well enough to get more funding for the next set of these projects. There's going to be more of them. So this time I'm earlier in the design phase, and I want again to reach out to the people who people that we were knocking around with. So what was it? It was nearly 10 years ago now. And so to that point, I was wondering what is open education now? What do we think open education is? Because I know for me it's changed a lot. So when you guys hear open ed, what do you think? What do you think it is? What do we all think it is? I'm sorry, this is a bit sort of deep and a bit sort of existential.
Yeah. No, it's really relevant, I think. I think one of the things that came to my mind as you said this is when you talk to people about openness who don't have that as a worldview or as a sensibility, it's not their attitude, it's not the automatic way they think of things as an attitude. And then they also don't have the technical know-how of how do I make it that way. And I'll talk to you about this more later, but we've always thought like climate, reconnecting should be like one of the open ways of dealing with climate justice, right? But I also know a group of people who are building an OER around climate justice, which I should tell you about. They're just starting it. So I want to tell you about that. But the general thing about openness is not just open resources, right? The open educational resources, of course, a big part of it. But I think it's all the openness in terms of connections and networking that happen around that, and the openness to incomplete and vulnerable, and not just sharing complete knowledge. I think a lot of people, especially if they're working on the policy level, all the work happens underground until it's perfect, and then it goes out. But with openness, I think it's the conversations that happen along the way that need to be opened up about things like this, where people who aren't the policymakers have a lot to say and a lot to offer, and we don't get to see that, right? That's my thought. I don't know what others are thinking.
I mean, I work for an organization that has that in its name. I don't know if I'm going to give you a definition, Jonathan. It means a lot of things. And there's like so much going on now. It's a little bit bewildering. So the idea about knowing what the world is doing in open education is a little bit confounding. But I guess I just think like often we want to like entice people with like our energy and our enthusiasm and like this is great, but until they have an experience where they get something, just a small one, and so I see so much potential, like the little things that people do in the Wikimedia ecosystem, where they can just have an experience of contributing a photo or adding a small piece to the thing. So I think sometimes we come on like with a big wave of like, this is openness and it's going to change everything, and we're going to like do things, and I think people get a little bit overwhelmed with what that means, and openness is as little as like someone you don't know sharing a fantastic resource that leads you into something else, and maybe we don't think of that as the big open. I see George's hand up.
Hi, yeah. I want to just concur with what Maha was saying as well. Because our policymakers sometimes aren't ready for the conversation. Like it's really obvious in the room here that we're ready for the, we're ready for the conversation, and we're, doing a lot of the work and so on, right? That's easy, but our other decision makers, or the decision makers that we're working with that just they're so focused on containment, if you will, and that may be a harsh word, but containment until it's totally ready to go public. The exception being, oh, let's just go ahead and drop Bard and ChatGPT everywhere. So that would be an exception, let it infuse society. But generally in our open, they are thinking OER in terms of just, let's lower textbook costs. Let's do things like that. And in the education world, I think most of people's heads are still there. I'm going to give you a real example here. This is morning local newspaper headline: Digital Divide listening session to take place at CSU Monterey Bay Friday, right? That's the headline in the email thing. During Friday's Broadband for All workshop, residents and stakeholders from local government, businesses, libraries, schools, and nonprofits will brainstorm ways to provide broadband access to everyone in our Tri-County area, right? Monterey, San Benito, Santa Cruz. Great, wonderful, outstanding. Then you look at our campus faculty dashboard, which has events appropriate for faculty to attend. No sign of this major thing happening Friday, right? That's a community event. Because, well, first of all, we're not on contract because we just turned our grades in and everything. Sure. But half the faculty is still on contract. So there's no reason not to tell the campus about it. And yet there's an item in the local newspaper saying this is happening, right? So it's the mindset of people deciding what to share and what not to share, instead of just defaulting to let's share the information and have a conversation. That's, I think, our challenge.
Sue?
I was just going to reflect on something happening locally in my own university, in my own college. So my university is made up of three colleges. There's about 30,000 plus students at the university. So the colleges are quite big, but the new head of learning and teaching has started to, so he's responsible for educational development as well as quality and student experience. But he's been using Padlets a lot back. So the people that have got responsibility, like I'm a learning and teaching lead, getting us to comment on things that they're actually discussing that's further up at college or even university level. And this is really new because normally it's kind of, the people at the top decide that they're going to change policy and that's it. It gets cascaded down and, we then get to tell people this is what you've got to do and it's a done deal. So it was just a reflection really that, it's small steps. It needs somebody as an advocate, doesn't it, to show people that this is beneficial for things that are, sort of maybe low risk to start with and then it goes on. So I don't know if that helps, Jonathan, but it's probably just sort of quite a big step for them if they've never experienced that themselves. That how could you encourage people to contribute to the conversations, even if it's a small group of people, small group of volunteers, before it goes absolutely.
It's reassuring to know that. I mean, I've just come to Nottingham and I did a search on Open at Nottingham and I couldn't find anything. There's no one there. I actively asked at executive level who is leading on open education. No one even asked me, what is it? What does that mean? I was lost. Like, where do you even begin with that?
Yeah.
I guess I just have to think, okay, well, this is a really rich ground for me to build something on. But then it's like, what do I build though? I mean, the technological questions has been asked. That got forced through COVID. Everybody now teaches in what's now referred to as a hybrid fashion, right? So, I'm sorry, the hand's going up and I'm hogging it.
Go Glenda and then Max.
Thanks. I suppose it's so interesting listening to these conversations. Maha is in Cairo, I'm in Cape Town, kind of, feels like global south and removed from it all, but we have such similar conversations around how to sort of, within the small team that I work in, this kind of what is the future of open education and nationally in South Africa trying to build this network around openness. And we have several colleagues that you will know well, like Gino and Igor and so on. And I just think it's interesting that, and very important for us to keep moving into different spaces. So with what you're saying, Jonathan, around, I think I do think that as open educators, we've been talking to other open educators a lot. And just recently with some of the work I've been doing with UNESCO and just in my own work, just being involved in different communities, that actually almost going back to sort of the educational technology way back when, where I was in that community, now getting more into kind of that community as well as institutional research. So I think and I've been surprised at going into institutions and sort of saying, what do you know about open? Do you know about Creative Commons? And I've been surprised at how many people have said yes. So the message is getting out there, definitely is. And somewhere like UNESCO, for example, a lot of the work that they've been doing recently on futures of higher education all include open. And I was like, oh, it's open, like what is that open? But very interesting, very specific, open access to research, open to teaching materials. So I'm feeling like it is on a macro level and these kinds of, champions and all of us have tried really hard to build an empirical research base to make an argument for why open has a role in social justice and this enabling place. So it just from a different perspective, very similar conversations around how to transform pedagogy using open. That's kind of what we're getting into. And I think our role now as open educators is to really get into those different conferences, different networks. And sometimes it's not coming with open initially, and student co-creation is something I'm very interested in. And and I can see my own language changing a little as I realize the power of open education to incorporate students. And now I have a title, and then I think, oh, I haven't put open in the title because it's so embedded in everything I do that, you know, it's kind of just, and so you kind of have to explain it. But I think we need to be working into those different areas, because that makes sense to someone. Like student co-creation, okay, how could I do this? Well, if you want to create open education materials or open a textbook, bring the students in to co-create that. It's giving them voice, it's making the materials local, it's doing a whole lot of addressing injustices and transforming curriculum. And suddenly we know who our students are by doing that. So I think we've got to evolve in time. So that's, I mean, it's a very long-winded answer to what is open education, but I think it's evolving. And I think it's in a good place. Because I think it's becoming aligned with a lot of really key issues. I mean, AI as well, for as open educators to make a really strong correlation between AI and to me, it's still the copyright stuff is still I'm not unsure about with AI, but just there are these opportunities now and we've just got to be on it with trying to bring that into helping students, understanding our students better, and understanding this, you know, how we can link all of this to open. My response. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda.
Last comment from Mags. And
Okay,
then Ellen and I need to look.
last comment is just say, yeah, I'm living your dilemma, Jonathan. At the moment, I just finished a PhD, answered all the questions, everything was fantastic. And I was looking at TeachMeet, and so the word open was important, but it was open space technology, Harrison Owens, on conference world. But my big resolved thing it was like ticking in the back of my head all the time, and I kept looking, Catherine Cronin, I'm coming for you, was that it was actually, it's open professional learning for teachers. And there's OER. I got 16 different versions of open that I'm juggling at the moment, because I came into it from open source computing. And so come back in a year's time and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. But it's the word itself, I think, it's the greatest strength, and it's the big dilemma. I mean, open, there's 9 of us here on the screen. Open means 9 different things. To open what? So I'm actually too tired to even talk about it, because I was grappling with it all day. How do I, in my independent, not aligned to anybody, next year of trying to resolve this? It's actually, what I discovered was TeachMeet, open pedagogy, open, and the strength of weak ties that ties something like TeachMeet together is it's the two drivers from open pedagogy. It's passion and responsibility. So none of these can be legislated for. You can't put a law on it. And as you say, Glenda, tying in now with the responsibility we have to walk through AI gracefully and ethically, it's minefield. It's a minefield. So, and of course, Twitter's imploding and disappearing, and it was the platform upon which you could maybe depend and go with it. So anyone has any bright ideas about open professional learning, please send them. Send them my way. But no,
send them everywhere.
No big long words at the moment. No 7-syllable words. I'm back to cat, dog. A bird just pooped on my window over my head. So that's the level. That's my level of engagement.
I think there's a metaphor, the bird pooping on your window. And
okay, well, can I give you 30 seconds of where we're going with AI and generation? Some dude put a in Ireland, I don't know if it's gone out there yet, but some dude he put his photograph into a very prestigious annual Royal Academy art exhibition the day before yesterday. It was accepted, and it's an AI generated image of 4 young women, but he called it Magdalene, which was a very, very, very disgraceful carry on that went on where, you know, women were hidden away with their babies in Ireland. It's the worst AI image I've seen, because my friends are all doing beautiful ones for ages, no ethics, no nothing, but the gallery curators don't know what they were interviewed on radio last night. They don't know what, they know nothing about, you know, how to walk through this. And 5,000 quid is what this man was charging for his dreadful, really badly conceived picture. So that's my first time to see in my face absolute, you know, the really grimdark side of where we could be going. Okay, go and clean my window now.
There's a dark side and a light side, so let's work at them both. So thank you everybody so much for being here. Thank you, Maha, for the excellent technical support.
Yeah.
And virtual connecting is back.
Yeah. Can we all do all of us unmute and say goodbye in whatever language we speak?
Slán
Okay.
live.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Adios.
Bye.
God sings.
Au revoir.